Hello, everybody. We are live on a Thursday, well, night for most of you, afternoon for me. Yeah, decided to take a slightly different route for my normal shows today. Uh, Typically, I'm just talking about old media content from CrossFit and kind of what it meant to me or how it, I don't know, got me thinking about the sport of CrossFit. But most people in the CrossFit space know me because of my programming. And started this in about 2009, 2010, programming for higher level athletes or athletes that were super excited about the sport side of things, along with programming for my gym, of course. And built a career in programming for myself um, before it was really a mainstream thing in CrossFit. I've been doing this for 15 years now. Don, what's up? Ernie, good afternoon. Um, and yeah, so I'm 15 years deep into a programming career, which is weird for me to say. Over the years, we've seen so many other programs pop up, other coaches develop themselves and market themselves. And yeah, there's been some real good success by some others out there as well. I started doing this back before, I think the only other competitive programs on the map when I was doing this were Outlaw was before me. If you guys remember Outlaw Way. What's up? Extra sloppy. Esquire. Um, and then, of course, Invictus was there around the same time. I'm trying to think who else I'm missing. When I started Misfit, there just wasn't really anyone else. Like even Comp Trainer built by Bergeron was not established yet. It was Kenneth, what's happening? Corey Lunny. Yeah, not even CompTrain, Corey. Not even CompTrain. In fact, they hadn't even started the hashtag built by Bergeron yet when I started. It was just CrossFit New England. And people were following CrossFit New England programming. And that was kind of actually for a long time, CrossFit New England's gym programming was a lot of individuals and other affiliates default programming. It was back before Ben really monetized it at all. So that's kind of how far back that I go with this sort of thing. And I guess I'll get into my background story. Some of you guys don't know it. So for 10 years or so, I did about, call it 95% of the programming for Misfit in terms of like the blog, all the different prep for regionals and off-season stuff and all that. I wrote the vast majority of that stuff. And I wrote it with the idea, sort of the basic idea, like CrossFit Games or bust. And that's sort of how the whole entire program was written. And it worked. It worked for a lot of people, not a lot of people. It worked for a few people who were really physically gifted and had the time to do that. But it was a very small minority of the people who actually followed because we had no competition back then, really. We had, I don't know, a few thousand people probably. It's just a random number I'm throwing out at our peak of subscribers from back in the day. And I had a system for how we kind of put it out there. Corey Lunny was one of the early adopters, and I got to work with Corey for years in a one-on-one type setting as well. Corey really, he dedicated himself to it. And the reason it worked for Corey is not necessarily because the program was so great, but because Corey kind of trusted himself and didn't just go, didn't follow it blindly. Corey was really like, asked a lot of questions. When he didn't want to do something, he didn't add something to his plate for no reason. He was, we would talk a lot about why we were doing something. He'd ask questions. It was just, he's not just a blind follower like a lot of other people are in programs. And so when you blind follow programs, especially what we see today and what they've turned into, you have all these athletes who are following these really, really challenging programs that are way out of their league, but they've been marketed to them because their favorite CrossFit Games athlete follows it. And so you have all these athletes in the CrossFit space that are somewhere between affiliate level and maybe even semifinal level following this shit. And they're just not doing themselves any favors. Okay, we have a guest. Didn't know if this was going to happen or not. Hi.
Special guest here.
Special guest.
Did you tell them all our secrets already?
I haven't even got into why we do what we do yet. I was just giving them kind of a quick background on me and sort of how I spent 10 years programming for essentially 20 people while I had thousands of others that followed and basically couldn't keep up with the volume or the demand of it, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I was a victim of that.
That's true. I wasn't even thinking of that. I didn't coach my wife back then. Someone else did, but I wrote the
I was a
program,
victim of that too.
essentially followed. Yeah. That's a different story.
The thing I'll never forget.
Here
What
we
was it?
go.
Texas method? Is that
Yeah,
the one?
5x5. Yep.
No, it was a 3x3.
What am I
I don't
thinking
remember
of?
which it was, but this was Seth's program. I was like regionals, games, whatever, following, and I remember specifically, it was a 3x3 at like 92.5%. And this was like, I was already absolutely bundled from whatever we did before that or whatever. This is probably the third piece of the day. Seth's like, oh, go squat 3x3 at 92.5%, which
Well,
was like 300 pounds for me or something. And I don't even think I hit one rep. And I was like, who? I was like, are you like, you do it, Seth?
no,
What
I
is
didn't.
that? Monday?
Yeah,
I
when
don't remember what it was, but
we were back squatting 3 times a week at that. I remember the cycle. So this is what led me to where I am today, right? So a lot of those programs were not created. Yeah, there it is. Corey remembers. He was a
who
subject
like
of
did
that.
anybody
So
was
listen,
anybody able to do that? Because by the third day I was not even doing one rep.
right,
And I was just pissed.
exactly. And that's the problem with templated strength programs. And I recognized this as it was going out there. And I'm like, how is this a universal lifting program? Even I questioned it at the time because I never was like the spreadsheet numbers guy where it's like has to follow this exact progression. I was always more avant-garde about it in terms of like mixing things up and keeping it more GPP than very fixed like traditional weightlifting programs. And anyway, yeah, you're dead on. There's so many people who are you clicking stuff right now?
I am.
Get out of here. There are so many people. There are so many people. Now you made me lose my train of thought. Oh, who tried to follow this and couldn't. And so if you had to just prescribed, like Corey had written up here, the 5x5, 4x4, 3x3, and you give a much wider range, or you give whatever, it allows athletes to do what they can do on that day. And so there are so many people who were just never making it to the end of a cycle because we used to use
but forget about
the
making it there. I was like pissed because I'm like, why are they telling me to do this? And I'm not even able to do one rep. Like I would just drop the bar on the ground. I'd re-rack it. I would try again. And I would just keep failing and failing and failing and failing. And I'm like, who's able to do this right now?
Well, some people could do it, but part of your problem was that you had an extremely high 1 rep max compared to most other females who hadn't really come anywhere close to reaching that yet. You kind of hit your ceiling around that time of your best ever back squats. And so for you to be able to hit that higher percentage would have been harder for you than somebody else who was still on the come up. Because what was your best ever?
345.
Yeah, I don't know any other female with a 345 back squat.
But again, the point of the matter is I would see this in my program. I'd be like, ooh, back squats, like my favorite. And then I'd be walking out of the gym a failure and I'd be pissed. And I'd be so irritated that I was even told to do that, quite honestly, because I wasn't even close to being able to do it at that point. But yeah, maybe that's a me problem.
It's not just a you problem. I mean, the programs were super aggressive. A lot of the strength stuff was kind of picked from old school Russian weightlifter, Bulgarian weightlifting templates, like all these old templates, like, ooh, that looks really hard. That will get people strong. Back before I knew better and how kind of the two played off each other with CrossFit and strength training and how they're not the same. And the higher the level that you go, in theory, some people try to pull them apart when realistically, if you marry them together better, it probably produces better, more consistent results. Free programming. Yes, you're going to have all next week for free. I'm going to show you everything, including the class stuff here in a minute. Yeah, casual 345 back squat. You would still have like a top back squat at the CrossFit Games these years. Chris, thank you, buddy. You've been following a long time. You even, I think you jumped over from the Misfit train too. So we appreciate you.
Don't say that word.
It's too bad. People know.
No, but just don't say that word. It's a bad word.
Anyway, let's see.
Wait, so what is this that you pulled up?
So
This
this is
next week?
next week's Jump Ship 90. I'm gonna see if I can make it. Let's see if I can do this. Does it make it better? Yeah, it's better. So this is next week Jump Ship 90. I just want to talk about some concepts that we are sort of not negotiating on anymore between Danny's coaching and competition experience and all my coaching experience. There are certain things that I'm just not willing to subject the masses to ever again. And basically, I think they're detrimental. So the way we do it now is much more open to, I don't know what you want to call it, just it's more flexible in the sense that you can kind of customize it and make it fit you, especially with the strength training. So if I come down here, let's see if I can pull some of this back. Nope, I cannot. Okay. So if we come down here to the strength, like a real simple thing on Monday, like back squat in 16 minutes to establish a 5 rep max. And that's after your conditioning. The conditioning has plenty of like squatting and hinging and pulling and all sorts of things you would need to set yourself up to be super warm for squatting. And then after you have 16 minutes to hit a set or a heavy set of 5. And so it says 5 rep max, but we don't really ever expect somebody to always hit a PR. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And again, that's another reason why we keep it so open-ended. But in 16 minutes, how many sets do you think someone should hit in there? Like working sets?
For a 5 rep?
Or how would you build? Let's talk about this. If you were going to spend 16 minutes doing this, what would you build?
Well, I would probably only end up hitting 5 probably twice. I'd end up
I would say two to three times for a set of 5.
Yeah. You know what before you said that, what I was thinking, what I hate almost just as much as when I was trying to do like 3x3 at 92.5% and couldn't do it, is when like people post online and they're like, "Oh, sorry, coach, I like hit a PR today." It's like, what the fuck? Why does your coach not want you to hit a PR if you're feeling good? Oh, because I wasn't supposed to go over 74% today, but I accidentally hit 110. It's like, you're an idiot. Like, what does that say?
Who's the idiot though? Who's the idiot there?
Everybody, all of
everybody
them. I just think
involved.
that's the cringe of that. I have like a cringeometer that it's just like, I can't. I'm like, that is so annoying that they feel like they have to like say, "Oh, sorry," like whatever. It's like your coach should be happy that you are feeling good and hitting. Like again, maybe the difference is if you're like Olympic weightlifting or have a very specific strength thing you're doing. But I feel like for the regular CrossFit athlete who's just regular, like I don't know.
Well,
like what does it matter what time of year you're hitting a PR?
So here's the thing. So there's all kinds of old school strength and conditioning literature that I've been through countless times, right? And so there's all these theories on how to peak, how to run cycles, how to progressive overload. Like there's all these different strategies that have been used in traditional strength and conditioning for years and years. Okay. The problem is that when CrossFit started to get big and coaches from these more traditional backgrounds came in to this space, they brought that stuff with them instead of embracing the mixed modality GPP style that the methodology kind of demands. And that's where things started to go haywire because you can't just use your old strength methods randomly thrown into some extremely high intensity training that mixes gymnastics, sprinting, jumping, plyometric, all these things together that CrossFit has, and then expect these very baseline templates to continue to work or have a linear progression on them. It won't work that way. So these coaches are telling athletes, we have to keep you fresh, only go up to 70% or whatever. But the problem is when you start to progress to something that's useful in terms of a working load or trying to find adaptation through that intensity, through heavier weights, you're not going to find it by sticking to these percentages. And you don't need a ton of volume with strength work either. That's the other thing that we see a lot in programs is like part A, part B, part C, snatch pulls, snatch high pull plus pull under, snatch this, like, and there's all
the
these
thing
steps
we've been saying for a long time too is like the lift is like, again, you want obviously overall, solid, well-rounded strength, but like the lifting event in any competition is one event. So, generally speaking, it's one event. Maybe there's a few other heavier ones or whatever. But like I don't know why people are doing 2 hours of lifting and then trying to do 2 hours of conditioning after that.
The thing that people aren't considering is that the CrossFit metcons and even like where we have our quality time piece or whatever, where you slow things down, focus on movement, just everything around the strength work is like your strength work accessories. You don't need to do strength accessories because you're already doing them in your conditioning. So people try to add them in. It's basically just junk volume. Unless it's technique work, it's just junk volume. You don't need it. And in fact, you're not going to do it at any intensity that's going to be meaningful. It's just going to wear you out, burn your grip out, burn your pull out. It's going to take away your ability to apply intensity to other pieces. That's
And is
the
anybody
problem.
enjoying that? Because I like just that extra, the snatch grip deadlifts and the snatch balances, because I have skipped that ever since I started doing CrossFit. I thought it was absolutely boring and never cared to do it.
Yeah. I don't know any. There are several big name programs that still do that stuff because they post their samples online.
That's what I'm saying. Are people
what the fuck are
like
you doing?
excited when that pops up in the programming versus just regular GPP stuff? Because it's like, again, I think if as like old school kind of CrossFit athlete, I think you want to just do CrossFit stuff.
I mean, unfortunately, like we're probably preaching to our own like choir here, but a lot of people who are following probably either already follow the way that we do things or are following Jump Ship itself. But yeah, like Larry Young says, most of the weightlifting stuff's based on 1950s Soviet Olympic lifting. It's a new day. Yeah. And guess what else that's all based on, Larry? Massive amounts of steroids. It's the only way the Soviets were able to recover from that kind of volume. And it was the only thing they were doing. So those programs are garbage. Yes, we got Smolov Jr. got me 4 or 5. Smolov Jr. is probably the most brutal back squat program there is. So the fact that you survived is great and got a PR, but like obviously not sustainable, as you would probably attest to. Ernie likes the multiple lifting, but doesn't like it for GPP in the classes.
That's fair.
Yeah, it does vary from person to person, especially if someone wants to be. So like, I'm not hating on strength bias athletes by any means either. And if you are a strength athlete in terms of you care about super total, powerlifting, Olympic lifting more than you care about CrossFit, then you would do those accessory movements. You would have A, B, C, D, E with your lifting because you're not going to get the accessory out of the CrossFit. You're not going to get that range of motion, that movement, that sort of thing out of your CrossFit workouts. So you do need it if you want to be a strength athlete. But if you're strictly a CrossFitter trying to compete at any level in CrossFit, you do not need it. Even if you're working on your weaknesses, you probably still do not need it. Yeah, get on the roids. That's I mean, you want to be the best CrossFitter. That would do it. Okay, let's talk a little more about our program in general. So strength work, we never do cycles. We never do percentages. If we put a percentage in there, it's to give you an idea of about where you should be. So sometimes if I'm saying don't go above 70%, or it's like AMRAP back squat reps after you find your 5 rep max at 70%, it's an ish. It's always like, pick a weight and then try to accumulate some volume sort of thing. But that's pretty rare. We lift first. This was, I'll fully admit, this was Danny really pushed me to make sure this was like a staple of the program, lifting first. And why did you do that? We always lift before, or we always condition before lift.
Mostly, I don't remember. Were we in Maui when that happened?
Yes.
Mostly like we were always, whenever me and China would work out together, we would always do the metcon first, mostly because our body hurt. We're just like get a better warm up, and then we feel super good when it's time to lift. Like I can't, now every now and then, maybe once every 2 or 3 months, Seth will put the lift first, and like everybody in our gym is like pissed. They like can't believe how dare he put the lift first. And it's like super funny because when we first made this change, it was kind of like a ballsy change, going completely against basically what every other like CrossFit affiliate's kind of doing, which is lift and then metcon. Now that we switched, like they refuse to do it the other way because they just feel so much better. And it's not even like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some days when somebody goes out way too hard in the workout and then their post metcon lifting will suffer a little bit, but people are still hitting PRs regularly, and I think their body feels better. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is that your joints feel good.
Yeah, I think it's helping people lift heavier weight consistently. Whereas if you're doing it first and you feel like shit, it's less likely you're going to spend the time, especially in a class setting, warming up appropriately to be able to do any meaningful strength work. Whereas even if you smoke yourself in a workout, you at least still already have the range of motion warmed up. Your central nervous system's primed. You may feel a little tired or your grip's fatigued, but you can probably still get really high quality working sets in after. Whereas if you felt like shit and you didn't go through that first, you probably wouldn't get any quality working sets in at all. And with all that in mind, we definitely think about what the strength intention is going to be for that day, and we will program the stimulus of the workout around what we want to get out of the strength. So if we want someone to truly find a new 1 rep max front squat, we're not going to hammer them in the ground with like 10 rounds of bike sprints and whatever else, like burpee box jump overs, to completely destroy their quads. We'll do something that helps get them ready, warm up the range of motion, get them fired up, and then allow them the time to hit the heavy front squat. So we have that. It's all built in. It just isn't written out with percentages and everything else.
Also, the other reasoning was like, if you're, talking to the majority of the people that follow this, they're either like trying to get into from the open into quarterfinals or from quarters into semis or whatever. And like the lift is always post metcon in the open, or the lift is now just like not even in, was it even in quarterfinals, or like squashed into the metcon? So it's like, it was that clean and jerk thing, which wasn't even super heavy. So it's like, you'd be better off, being.
And they made it clear, Dave and Boz have both made it clear that they will not be programming lifts by themselves, even post metcon, within the open or quarterfinals anytime soon ever again. But they will make workouts heavy. So you need to move what will potentially be close to your 1 rep, or maybe even beyond your 1 rep, within a workout setting. So forget post-workout, like the clean and jerk you talked about in, was it quarterfinals this year? You have to move, if you're a guy, 245, I think it was, for reps in a workout with 170 beat per minute heart rate. You're not, so like forget post.
But then you'll have the people who talk to us and make the argument and be like, oh, my 1 rep max isn't going up, or I'm not going to hit a PR post metcon. But like, if their PR is obviously exceeding the 245, then they need to learn how to move that under fatigue, not just continue to raise their 1RM. And again, this is like specific to CrossFit, not like you said, like if you're doing other like strength total stuff, then very different conversation. So I think people like get honest about that all the time.
Our dedicated scientist, Mike, I don't even know what that word is. Myokines signals from warm muscles, reduces joint inflammation, so it follows easier to lift after metcon. Mike is a very intelligent, I think he's a biochemist or something. Mike, you have to tell me what you are, but you are a smart science guy, and there you go. There's your answer.
I also think, like Corey said, like lifting second has given him less, like whatever, but he's way fitter. Anyways, for me, I could not lift as heavy pre-workout at this point. Like I would have to do some sort of warm up metcon to get even somewhat warm enough to be able to do anything respectable at this point. Like my body has completely adapted to this new way.
Interesting. Well, you know what's funny too is like there are some techniques that I use in programming that I know, because it's just happened so many times, that lead to the best results in lifting, but they're mostly during dynamic lifts. So clean and jerk and snatch, and something like the ladder that we just saw at semifinals, the 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. When you move fast and you have to move the barbell super fast at lighter weights, like the 10s and the 8s, that like explosive dynamic movement warms you up and wakes you up so much that it unlocks your potential to move the heavier weights later. People fear that if they do that sort of thing, it's going to fatigue their 1 rep max or something like that. And in that instant, it may, but you'll recover quickly, and then you'll be able to lift heavier than you would have if you didn't do those reps earlier on. That's why when we have something like the back squat, which isn't, I mean, it's dynamic, but it's not like a snatch or something, but the 16 minutes, if Danny's warming up, she's saying she's only hitting 2 or 3 sets of 5 to find a 5 rep max for that day. But she's probably, or at least I would recommend athletes hitting like a set of 10 super light to warm up, hit the positions, build the pattern. And then a couple sets of, from there, maybe you do like 1 set of 5, and then you knock it down. You hit like doubles and triples as you're building the weight up, so you're not going excessive with volume. And then you hit your shots at your 5 to finish. Is that about how you would do it?
Yeah, I'd probably do threes like most of the way. But yeah,
But
I would open with like a bigger set.
yeah, and opening with that bigger set again builds the pattern, wakes up your central nervous system, gets your range of motion feeling good. You're like, yeah, everything just feeling better for that. Anyway,
but I also think it's like, look at what's coming before. We got 30 overhead squats at 105. So like my squats already somewhat like pretty warmed up. Again, not like super duper heavy, but you'll see that kind of like pattern in the programming where like, you know, a squat in the metcon will lead into like a heavier squat in the strength. So like that's kind of the point.
Extra Sloppy's gym said they made the switch and people are hitting PRs post metcon. I think it's pretty standard. I could call that a good rule at this point that it's going to work. I don't think it's even an experiment for us anymore. It's been proven across our 5 affiliates, the 45 to 50 other affiliates around the world who follow and won't change at this point because they love it.
Not even won't change, but complain on the days that you put the lift first, which is like once every 3 months. They get like angry.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, well, I'm not like, well, I'm going to do it after. It's like, okay.
Yeah, Larry, whenever, ladders, you have less time to think. Yeah, whenever you're against a clock, I actually think the clock is actually another big factor. That's actually, it's a whole other topic. That's how I kind of determine how heavy things are going to go, how much time we build in between sets. So I'm showing you this example of the back squat, but a lot of our strength looks more like something like this with the split jerk here. So you have EMOM 10, 1 rep, and then 7 minutes to take 3 shots at a heavy single. So the 10 singles on the minute, you don't have any time to be scrolling on your phone between sets. You hit a set, you hit a rep, you assess how the rep felt, you make your weight jump, you hit a rep, you assess, make an adjustment, you hit a rep, and that clock keeps you focused, but it also keeps the weight in control. If I put it on every 2.5 minutes or every 3 minutes, 1 rep, I would expect every rep to be super heavy. So I can dictate the load without percentages or anything like that, just by manipulating the clock for people. And that's another thing we keep in mind. Address this question. Pause squats help in strength for that lift. If you're talking front squat, I think, is that what we're talking about? Pause squats are excellent to make strength adjustments for positions. They may not help maximal strength because maximal strength will come from that stretch reflex through the range of motion, especially on something dynamic. But if let's say your midline is the weak link and at the bottom you always cave because of either a flexibility issue or just a midline strength issue, then pause squats can certainly help address that. And they might even help your front rack, things like that. I wish my box was on jump ship. Well, tell me who I have to talk to.
Us too, Mr. Neri. Us too.
Yeah. Okay.
You've been blabbing for almost 30 minutes and you haven't even gotten past Tuesday?
Well, we've been talking strength, but we can actually take like a meaningful stroll through the program itself. So yeah, you can see
the pick one day because you talk a lot.
Okay, why don't you pick one day?
I liked that Tuesday that I just saw for a second. Oh wait, let's
with the benchmark.
Ooh, no, go to Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Can you see it?
Well, kind of, but
let's see. I'll blow it up more. That's why I was asking.
Double click it.
I got you. I can kind of get past the warm up, right? There you go.
And we can ignore the partner WOD for now, but I like that little, this is like a good example of a kind of what we were saying earlier with like making it, like deciding which workouts are going to make the strength, like the focus kind of thing.
What do you mean by that?
Like how you'll design a workout to like have this one be focused on the heavy thrusters.
Yeah, and it's in the workout. It's not even the strength. The strength that we actually pivoted to something completely different because you already get your dose of it in the workout itself.
That's a fun little,
but yeah,
little nasty thing.
And what's funny is like sometimes the movement that goes with the other movement, the strength piece, complements it. But in this case, I actually think the rowing makes thrusters a little more challenging. So it is more interference than actual like complementing. So even though you're doing the same like push through the rower and warming the legs up and even the arms involved, I actually think rowing takes a little juice out of your legs and will make the thrusters a bit more heavy, which is a good thing because now we can push you to your near max without having to go super, super heavy on the barbell, really challenge you here.
And with this too, like the 250, 200 meter row, like you could obviously have that take exactly a minute, or you could kind of push it really hard and have those have that get really breathy and really challenging, or, you know, you could just kind of coast through your row and then really focus on the thruster. So it kind of depends on like what you want to get out of it.
You could play this like, you could really play this tricky if
So
you
many
were like
ways.
an elite, and you could try to do like a negative split on the row where you're just beating it by a couple tenths of a second each time, and then trying to increase the weight across each set as well. That would
be really hard.
Test how dialed in you are about yourself. But anyway, those are like important things. If you were really seeing what your capacity is in terms of like how well you know yourself, that would be an interesting test to see if you could pull something like that off and survive 10 or 12 rounds of that on each movement. That would be super, super impressive. Or you can just row casually and hit some heavy thrusters and try to hit something heavy by the end, and that's perfectly fine too. It's designed to set you up for success no matter how you kind of approach that. Unless you just fail your thrusters over and over again, then that's on you.
Do you know if people generally do the partner workout on Saturdays, or we have more people who do the indie?
I would say we have more people that do the indie, but there are plenty of people that tag me on social media that are doing the partner WOD. But it's definitely
even
used,
obviously almost everybody in our gyms opts for the partner version. And then even when we have like our like competitive athletes or whatever who do like open gym after class, they all generally do the partner version as well. But I don't know, kind of interesting. I think what we do good with the partner version too is we usually set it up so that like working with a partner doesn't necessarily like affect your workout. If that makes sense. So I think that we like usually have them work like that.
See, we have at least one, James, who I think he goes to Corey's gym too. So there we go. Partner workout. Partners. Okay. I'll say this about partner workouts. Partner workouts are the best workouts that there are. I know some people want to get into like the long grind by themselves and have the mental side of things, but I think even more so, you get the mental like stimulus you need from never being willing to let your partner down. You work harder. Typically, not everybody. Like if Danny and I are partners, we're just bitching the whole time. But like,
if I'm not getting a workout in,
if you have, I'm
just waiting for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm working hard. If you have a random partner or like a good training partner, you want to outwork that partner and you don't want to leave them hanging and everything else. So you end up upping the intensity half a notch, whether you realize it or not, which is good for you. It's good for your training. And also then you have some interval stuffs. Typically with partner stuff, you're sharing one works, one rests a lot of times. So then again, the intervals allow for a higher dose of intensity because you have rest built in. And it's just a great way to push yourself into a place that you're not super comfortable being on your own as often.
But so this partner WOD is like, I think a good example of what, not all the time, but what they kind of look like. So it's like share a rower, but you have your own barbell and you're going opposite movements. So you're like in your own like workout. You're not even affecting in this scenario your partner, which like, so you can just kind of use that person as like a push to be like, oh, you know, how fast are they rowing or what are they thrusting? It doesn't even matter like what
in this
what anybody else
one.
is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of them are like that though, because I think we try to think about that when we're doing the class program. Because I think, all right, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do that.
I can do that. Keep talking.
Okay, whatever. Let's move on. Bench press.
Move on to.
I'm skipping that.
Talk about. I'll tell you what. Do me a favor. Talk about quality time versus finisher. And then, like, you can talk about comp extras if you want after that. Like, who should do that?
Me? Why don't you talk about it?
Because I'm gonna get a link going while you're doing that.
All right. So we have kind of these names of things. So quality time versus finisher. Finisher means, you know, you're going to empty the tank. You're going to go all out on that piece. Versus quality time. Again, not that we're saying in the finisher that we want your movement to look like shit, but kind of with the quality time, it's kind of just like, hey, maybe don't go a million miles an hour. I would assume for like this quality time, kind of the movement that we don't see like as often is like ring dips. We do a lot of like, you know, cleans, hang power cleans. So like making those reps just like look really good and not versus you'll see a finisher that's more of just like an ending. Sometimes it's more of like a single round straight through kind of chippery thing. What else we got? Oh, and then competitor extra. So actually I'm very curious how many people follow or do the competitor extra. They're kind of there, like when we were kind of coming up with jump ship and everything, like the time domain we obviously settled on was like 90 minutes kind of being, you know, a really solid dose for the majority of people. But then there was all you people coming from these other programs that were like, I need more. I need 2 hours a day. I need 3 hours a day. So that was kind of the compromise with the competitor extra. And I think I don't know of anybody who does those, but I think Seth sometimes gives those maybe to like remote clients or people who are like really trying to get to that next level or maybe have less like work family type responsibilities. And I think he does those or one of them as a second session. I don't even actually know.
What? Say that again. Sorry.
The competitor extra, when you're giving those to like remote clients, are you doing it as a second session for those?
A lot of times I build it into the 90 somewhere. So sometimes it extends their session out 15, 20 minutes. If it's like a super higher level athlete, like if it was Jordan, she might get up to, 2-hour session, or sometimes we will talk about doing double sessions. I'm just going to post the link in here, and then it won't let me add to the description.
I like what Corey
until
said.
I'm done.
I'm going to click it.
Go ahead.
Sub out the quality time or finisher for comp extra if it makes more sense for me by how I feel. That's actually a good.
Yep.
That's a better explanation than what I said. That makes more sense because I do think people sometimes will do that. They'll sub in like if they want to lift more, they'll sub in like for this example the power clean over that, or just like the raw conditioning of the Echo Assault bike instead of the kind of like quality time, more skill stuff.
And I'm a fan of the double session too, like you were saying. Like if you had, let's say you had a barbell in your garage at home. What's that?
Yeah, if it makes sense for you, but I don't think the majority of people that we're talking to, we try to more or less steer them away from that and be like, go harder in the 90 minutes.
Right. So I was just going to say the majority of people we're talking to shouldn't even be touching the competitor extra, or like Corey had said, subbing it in for something else, not adding to additionally. It just gives you more stuff to recover from, and it can take away from your next session or next couple sessions if you get in the habit of adding more volume in, which is, I think, what is just crushing everybody. It's just volume. And
yeah, but the competitor extra thing, I remember you and I went back and forth on this a lot because I didn't want those in there for the exact reason of like when I was following from his like old company, there'd be like however many pieces, and then there'd be like 6 more pieces, and it would be like choose 3, but I'd choose all 6, and I'd be like, fuck out of my mind. But like I do think that, again, I think people are smarter these days. That was like, almost 10 years ago now. So I think there's like a lot more just like knowledge in the space. But I do think sometimes you put this in front of somebody and they're like, I have to do it. So like Seth told me it's in the program. Jess, if you're still watching, I'm talking to you. But like the people like feel like if it's in their app that they feel like they have to do it.
Yeah. And I don't think it's as common as it was. Lynn asked, I like the 90-minute time and the time segments. Are the comments also add in the app? Everything you see here is literally copied right into the Train Heroic app. So you're seeing exactly what you would see within the app. This is just on a spreadsheet, so I can display it here easy. And then James, I rarely need the extra 90 minutes is plenty. So that's exactly that's exactly why we designed it the way that we did, because to give you the chance to crush yourself, or not. Maybe you take it easy too, but you could crush yourself in 90 minutes and have more than enough that you need to recover from, and more than enough that would give you adequate adaptation. It's sort of like that. I don't want to say it's the minimum effective dose, because it's not the minimum. It's a little above and beyond for people who want to compete. But if you want to make steady progress without hitting burnout super fast, we're pretty much set on that. This is the way to do it.
And if you're like a non-individual CrossFit Games athlete, I feel like if you have more than 90 minutes, how can you spend that extra 3 hours or extra 45 minutes that you would be spending training? There's like a bunch of other shit you can do for recovery and things like that will really help, keep you healthy and feeling good instead of hitting another piece at 50% intensity because you're already tired.
Ooh, let me say this. So there's a lot. Yeah. Oh yeah. Here we go. Oh, this is a great comment. Yeah, 30 minutes is plenty. That's what I do.
Agreed.
I'm a
class
one and
program.
done guy. Yeah.
I like the class.
I'll show you class here as well. But I'm just going to say this because this is like one of the hot things that we're seeing.
I got mail. Kick me off.
You got mail? All right. You can remove yourself. But so one of the biggest things that we're seeing these days in the programming space is every coach is recommending, oh, we got to do this zone 2 work. You got to do zone 2, add zone 2 in. You're going to do 90 minutes of zone 2 today. That is, It's not the time. It's rarely the time or the place for zone 2 in a CrossFit style program. Zone 2, in my opinion, should be treated as recovery work for CrossFitters. And even then, when you have zone 2 in there, CrossFitters are never doing what zone 2 actually is. They can't help themselves but go above and beyond with their heart rate. Zone 2 should be like, I should be able to be biking right now as I'm talking to you, speaking this fast, speaking clearly, not having to skip every other word. But nobody does that. They're always above and beyond. They can't sing along to their songs. They're not in zone 2. So they're actually working. They're actually doing something challenging. If you're in true zone 2, this can be such a comfortable place to be, to build volume, build your aerobic system, and recover. It's the only time I ever program zone 2 for the general population is when you're in recovery. So on a Thursday or a Sunday, the days we put to be our recovery days, if you want to do 30 minutes of zone 2 on a bike or go for a comfortable jog, you can, but you have to actually stay in that zone. And for those who are recommending you need 90 minutes of it a day, the results from zone 2 training take so much time and volume that I would argue it is not worth it. If your goal is to improve in CrossFit, you can take the time it should be spending on that zone 2 throughout a regular training day and apply it to so many other places. It's not even funny. You can get a very good aerobic system without touching hardly any zone 2 work. Again, zone 2 is good for recovery. The other thing it is good for is kind of the mental ability to be able to go long distance. A lot of people want to quit on themselves mentally because they haven't experienced it. So as long as you're comfortable being in that zone 2, maybe coming in and out of zone 3 for a long time, you're good. But you don't need to be doing that week after week. It's propaganda. Just don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. It's not as important as you think for a CrossFitter, unless you're at the elite level. Games athletes, we're having a different story because the importance of training has changed. If you're just trying to squeak in the semifinals or do better in quarterfinals or whatever, you do not need all that zone 2 work. Okay. What'd you get in the mail? Oh, I know what you got. Never mind. I won't even ask.
You can talk a lot.
Oh, I could talk. That's why I said you're optional on the show. I could talk all day. Yeah, I did a lot of zone 2 work 1 year following the program, and I got really good at zone 2 work. Felt like my CrossFit got worse. Well,
some of these comments are like elite. Like, these are good comments.
You just don't know the chat.
This is my comment.
The chat's legit. That's you. Yeah, I know. The chat is legit.
Wait, we switched over to class now.
Okay, yeah. So we're looking at class, and the reason we just included this, I mean, again, it looks a lot like the 90, but it's on a 60-minute clock. I'm not like.
Let me give my class. Let me give my class.
Go ahead.
I love this class program. I really honestly love it. And the thing that Seth and I always kind of say, which like I don't even think people can comprehend what it means. We have like separately and together now owned 11 different CrossFit affiliates, literally everywhere. You were Maine, I was Boston. I had one in California, then Florida, now Hawaii, and Arizona. Is that all of them? I can't even keep track. Who's JY?
John Young.
I don't know what that is. Anyway, we've literally seen every possible CrossFit affiliate and program and athlete and all this stuff that we've ever seen because we've owned all these different gyms. And I think we've taken all of those different pieces and made this into like a really well thought out class program that people just really enjoy. And quite frankly, it's just simple CrossFit. All these other ones that we see are just like, these class programs are crazy that are out there, or they're either crazy or so freaking boring, which is like worse.
Yeah, I have a tough time not going down this road and then just completely shitting on everything else that's out there because it's not like helpful. And I also have a tough time selling my own program because I feel like I don't even know. It's always tough. I like to explain kind of why we do it, but I don't know why I'm always against selling myself on this sort of thing.
You don't have to go salesy. This is what I do every day. I take class almost every day at one of our gyms. And I just think it's always like I think the first thing we always try to do is like, is this going to be fun? Like, are people going to enjoy this? And like, maybe sometimes like, I don't know, we don't always have like like you said, zone 2 work or like very specific, just like aerobic pieces, but like we always try to make the workouts like fun. So people want to come to class.
Yeah. And I think we do a good job at that because I'm the type that like hates to do my own workouts, but I actually like doing class.
Yeah.
I can follow it. I can get into it. It's different enough, but it hits enough things that are like applicable. Not that I compete in the open or quarters or anything seriously, but like I want to be still good at muscle ups as I get older. I still want to be able to cycle push jerks. I still want to be able to hit double unders and crossovers. Like all those things are in class. And one of the hardest things that I had to get over early on was so many gym owners are afraid to program high skill movements or challenging weights in their class program because I was like, oh, no one in my gym can do that, or only a few people can do that. And it's like, well, guess what? They're never going to do that if you don't put it in the program and start teaching progressions towards it. They'll never.
And forget that, but then those one or two athletes that can do it never get to because you're too afraid to put it out there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And if you don't program it, then those athletes just suffer by going to your gym, which is not fair to them. So not that I don't think we do the program for the best, scale for the rest sort of thing. I think we do program for pretty good athletes and then scale and modify as needed for everybody else. And like full transparency, I use the women's weights on probably 2 out of 3 workouts a week. I use the women's weights in my RX because I want to bring intensity.
From just like the gym owner kind of perspective, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it the other way, but like we've never really pushed the put your scores in, write the scores on the leaderboard. We've never really made that like a big thing where I know some gyms like it really like works for them. We've just never really done that. So people don't have that need to cheat and really scale reps. Like we don't really have that problem that I know of anyway. And people are just happily just scale and modify because like, and we also, the only time we would encourage somebody to put their scores in is if we were doing like a named workout, either a girl workout, hero workout. Right. We would tell people to save those scores because all these other workouts though, like again, you look at this Monday workout, 4 rounds, row, double under, dumbbell box step ups. We are never going to do that workout again. Right. Ever. Because our programming is fully custom, changes with the exception of Tuesday. We have like Lila, which that comes up once a year, maybe not even. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so Lila, we might tell somebody to go, save their score and like Wodify, train heroic, whatever. But generally speaking, like, or you know what, we do tell people to put their like lifts in. I will encourage people to save like, their back squat 5 RM just to kind of give them an idea. Because most people don't remember that. But
I mean, without even talking to you about this, I say the same thing to them. The only thing you need to know are your lift numbers and your benchmark numbers. People are like, oh, I don't track my workouts. It's like, there's zero point in tracking the rest of your workouts. Just come here, give full effort, and leave.
We've each been a part of gyms in the past where there's always like that one athlete, or not one, but handful of athletes that feel like they need to cheat their workout to try to be the top of the leaderboard. And it's always the drama and this. Like, we don't have that at that I know of really at any of our gyms because we don't put the scores. Like, we don't encourage people to save their scores. And again, it's just like our choice. And it wasn't even a decision. It just kind of naturally happened like that. I think at our Kailua gym just was like such a tight, like really cool community and like nobody cared. Like it was really cool.
Yeah. And I would say, honestly, some of it kind of fell back on us because when we had our gym in Florida together before Jump Ship, we used to write all the scores on the whiteboard, right? Like the coach would write them. And then it ended up, for me, I don't want to call it laziness, but it ended up being that I was filling my class so much that like I was trying to coach, maybe overcoach, overtalk at the time, but just like trying to put so much into my class that by the time it wrapped up, they had enough time to just put their stuff away and hit the road before I had to start my next one. So like I wasn't writing 20 scores on the whiteboard because I was getting ready to start my next class because I was so invested in that 60 minutes, and the scores they mean nothing to me unless someone's like, wants to ring the PR bell because they hit a back squat PR. Like, I'm all for it. Go ring the bell. But we don't need to put everyone's times, everyone's scores, everyone's weights. They're not useful. And then people end up starting to compare themselves to others in class all the time. Like, oh, so-and-so gets this at the class before me. I have to try to beat them. It's like, okay, it's good to know about what your score should be or where you should be close to. But if that's your like benchmark is just beating this one person all the time, that's weird. You're missing the mark on yourself. You're probably going to either cut some reps to get that score you want or not challenge yourself with a heavier weight or a higher skill movement that you should be working on because you want to beat this person. So you end up losing to yourself that way. So with all that in mind, we just took the leaderboard situation kind of out of the equation in a lot of places.
One of the other changes that we had to make from like our original class program creation, obviously with the exception of moving the metcon first. That was obviously giant. But our Thursdays used to be, we'd call them recharge day, kind of like what you guys see in the 90 for recharge week. But so our thought process on the recharge day was, well, going back further than that, our program's obviously like very GPP. We don't, like, one of the main reasons you'll never see strength cycles specifically in our class program is because if you're a gym owner or a coach or whatever, you might have an athlete that only ever can come to the gym on Tuesday and Thursday. So and if you're doing a squat cycle that's every Monday, so they just never squat for the rest of their existence at your gym. So that's like one reason our program's always rotating, mostly to just accommodate everybody's kind of like personal schedules. So no matter what day of the week they show up, they're going to get a damn good workout. The only thing that we did implement was we made Thursday what we called, for a moment, a recharge day. And they were more lame than they are now. So like they were very dialed back. And then we kind of did away with that for what I was saying about people who could only come on like Tuesdays and Thursdays. We didn't want those Tuesday, Thursday athletes to come on Tuesday and get very normal CrossFit, and then Thursday to be like a very like kind of
boring,
very easy, very boring recovery workout. And we do know that, you know, some of the programs out there, some other gyms program Thursday to be like very, very easy. So we kind of took like a blend of that, where now our Thursdays in our head are always slightly dialed back. You typically just won't really see a barbell. It's usually the only thing that you won't see, and it's usually some sort of skill work. What's down like lower under the quality time there?
Stand by.
Yeah, so like Romanian deadlifts, like stuff like that is like what you'll normally see with us like on a Thursday. So it's designed for the athletes who do come to the gym like Monday through Friday, where they get one, I don't want to say like really easier day, because if you hit that workout hard, you're absolutely
it's just
like
more
mangled.
It's much more aerobic focused and like in accessory focused than any sort of heavy lifting where you're going to just bang up your CNS more for the rest of the week. It just lets your central nervous system rest a little bit.
But we tried to take into consideration that some people who, you know, maybe have a 2 times a week membership, that we still want that to be a good training day for them if that's like one of the second days that they're going to hit.
Yeah, and then they get to come back the next day and lift heavy again and all that other stuff, handstand push-ups. And so, yeah.
I think it was important to implement that Thursday though, and not have 6 days in a row of something heavy, because then you do have those people who go 6 days in a row. There's like a weird balance between the 2 times a week people and the 6 times a week people.
Yeah, I can definitely see the argument both ways for just making it a normal day as well. But I feel like Thursday has become such a universal rest day in the CrossFit affiliate space that more often than not, it's going to work for people. And if a gym owner wanted to take this template and use it, they could make it more challenging if they wanted to.
I think Thursday too, whenever we're kind of coaching or our coaches are instructing the athletes, it's kind of always like, hey, if you're feeling beat up, take this nice and easy, you know, just kind of move through the range of motion. And if you're feeling really good, like hit this really hard, and it's going to be a really hard workout. So kind of just like leaving it more open-ended like that.
Yeah.
Just so like kind of athlete's choice.
I love Thursdays. I sell my soul on Thursdays because I like the aerobic stuff. I think there's a couple comments here. Let's see. Yeah. Last affiliate I went to, they start programming challenging stuff, no muscle ups, no handstand push-ups. That usually happens because they're too afraid to coach it and they don't want to progress it, or I don't want to say, I'm not insulting them, but maybe too lazy to learn how to do it, learn how to coach it. Lynn, we do sell it. I just have a hard time selling it. I'm pretty good at explaining what's great about it, but I just I can't sell it. I feel weird about it. Let's see. Yeah, they're just cheating themselves, Ernie. And then a couple of people like the scores, extra sloppy. I like the scores. I like climbing the ladder year after year. So scores are fine. But I feel like there's enough spots where you can check your scores that you are moving up the ladder. Like with lifting, you know, your PRs will go up versus the field, your benchmarks, the girdle wads, your open wads, things like that. There are enough benchmarks and markers throughout the year that you should see yourself go up. But I get the point for sure. And then Ernie, I like benchmarks, seeing the names and wanting to train like them. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we definitely have no problem with the benchmarks. I like kind of comparing scores on stuff like that.
I actually don't do enough benchmarks, which is probably one of my issues. I probably should put more in. I only do them like once a month, maybe. Okay. Damn. Anything else? We talked about the 90 a little bit. We have the recharge day on Thursdays, and the 90 class does not have a recharge day, just has an aerobic day on Thursdays, Monday through Saturday. Saturday we have the partner WODs on both. The strength is very similar from class to 90. The workouts are similar enough. We designed the class off the 90, so we build out the 90 first, and then we build the class after that. So if you have coaches or higher level athletes or the gym owner, they train competitively, they follow the Jump Ship 90, and they want their members to do the same thing they're doing. Typically, they'll then get the class program from us, and they implement the class program for everybody else. And then we even have like some of our gyms, there are good athletes that follow the Jump Ship 90 religiously, but they'll jump into class and they'll do the 90-minute metcon in with the class, or they'll just hit the class metcon and then hit the rest of the 90 after, so they can participate as well. So it's a good community builder. That's one of the things that we were dead set on making sure that we offered, because we've seen so many gyms where the competitors or even the coaches in the gyms ruin the atmosphere by taking over, thinking they're way more important than the general member, just doing different programming and just really not having a lot of respect for the class setting. And so we were like, let's combine it. So that kind of takes it out of the equation. I got a couple more questions. What made you go with the app? Are you referring to Train Heroic? If you are, when we started Jump Ship, we were on True Coach, which wasn't a great way to get the program out to the masses. And then
we're on Shopify, like blog.
Yeah, we were on Shopify. Yeah, that was weird. And then Danny found Train Heroic, and they've been a good match for us so far. So it's been working well.
I'll answer this question.
Okay.
Affiliate program. Do you think of anyone in particular when you're programming? I think there's two ways there. Like Seth kind of already previously said, he's not programming for like a CrossFit Games level athlete, but he's programming for like a good affiliate athlete. We have like a lot of good affiliate athletes at our, like specifically our Kailua location. On top of that, our Kailua gym is very small. So we try to make sure that the workouts equipment is going to accommodate not like a micro-sized gym, but it's a small gym and we jam people in there. So that. Number three, I've always said that when I'm looking at class programming, I'm programming for my mother. She is the ultimate complainer. She doesn't know shit about CrossFit. She complains about every workout as if she is freaking Matt Frazier. Like, it's so annoying. So I've always said that when we put out like a program, it needs to be something that like an old annoying lady is going to be like, oh, that's fun. Because if like she's the one, like literally my mom is the one who's going to go complain to all the other members and be like, oh, this workout's boring. Oh, this workout sucks. And she doesn't know anything about it. So it's like, how do you make nothing? She knows nothing about it. And she's going to complain about everything. So it's like, how do you keep it fun? How do you keep it engaging for the competitive athletes? And how do you make it work for all different gym sizes? I think that's kind of like the three things that go into when we're kind of readjusting the 90 into class.
And super effective.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. That's not a given with every program, by the way. Not every program's super effective. Some people prioritize fun over effectiveness. Some people prioritize other shit too. Yeah. Effectiveness, key. Another question. Ever consider just putting that aerobic day on a rotating cycle so your Tuesday, Thursday people don't see it weekly, and that your 6 day a week people get to see that day too? We have considered it. Yes, we have considered it. We did
it for a minute.
We did it, and we also took it out completely for a minute and just had a regular 6th day. And then there's obviously a long piece somewhere in the week anyway.
Do you remember we rotated it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
yes,
Thursday, Friday?
It zigzagged down the calendar is what it did.
Yeah.
Yes, we used to do that. We went back to Thursdays based on just affiliate owner feedback. Basically, when someone signs up for class, a lot of times I take a call with them. So I'll talk to the gym owner, their coaches, try to help them kind of get this into their gym population smoothest way that we can. And most everyone's like, yeah, Thursdays we do bodybuilding, or Thursdays we've done this in the past, or Thursdays we've done, like, everyone's changed it on Thursdays, which frankly, it's our lowest attendant day in all 5 of our gyms too, which is, I don't know why. It's just the universal way of doing it.
Everyone's tired by Thursday.
Yeah. So we just went back to it. But if something changed, like, I wouldn't be opposed to changing it. But also, I always tell every gym owner that when we deliver this to them, because they get it a month at a time. So if you subscribe to Jump Ship Class, you get it in a PDF on the 15th of the month prior to. So 2 weeks before the month comes, you get the full month. So I always tell people, you're going to end up taking it and copying and pasting it into your Waterfy or your whatever app you're using, like just move the Thursday around if you don't want it there. You can easily shift it with a Wednesday or whatever else, and you can make it work for you. What are you pulling up there? Yes, it is fun, Jess.
Bitchin'.
Class program's fun. The 90 is not fun for me. Class is fun. The 90 is way out of my scope of abilities.
You have a fan, Jess. One fan.
You are welcome.
The other thing too about the Thursdays, we also have.
Do you want me to throw, before you say that, do you want me to throw the link to the latest month in the chat for people to see it?
I don't care.
I can do that. Okay, continue.
Wait, I have to make a different link.
Okay, make a link.
Well, I thought I'll make.
No,
just send a literal link, a hyperlink.
Not the one you just. Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna send him June.
Hyperlink.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a hyperlink for June.
Do you have it, or you want me to get it?
I can pull it up in 2 seconds, so they can see the full thing or have it.
I got it first.
Oh, we'll post it up. You
just
fast.
In the comment?
Yeah, just put it right in the comments.
Where did these comments go? Nowhere?
You can go back and watch them again with the video, so they'll scroll through just like you're watching live on
YouTube
if you want. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
The other thing I was going to say that somebody, I forget what it was about, but the wellness WOD too. We didn't really say anything about that. It's not that interesting, but for people who, this one, ever consider putting the aerobic day on a rotating Tuesday, Thursday? I think that's kind of partly also why we included the wellness WOD, which is a part of class. Can you scroll to that real quick?
Yep, I got it.
So it's just it's really just a completely scaled down version, perfect for a brand new athlete, perfect for somebody who just wants an easier day. So we'll have, competitive quote unquote athletes who are like, I'm just doing wellness WOD today. Like my body's like a little beat up, or like I'm tired, or I didn't sleep well, or I'm stressed from work. And they'll just like do the wellness version just to kind of move. So for those people who like just want that more kind of aerobic, like that version's always there. I think it's every day, right? Except for Saturday, we don't do it because it's the partner version.
Correct.
But that was a newer addition to the program, which I think more people have taken to it than I would have thought, that are just like, I'm just doing wellness today. Like I'm like tired. And it's like, cool, like perfect. The other thing that like we've always done in our gyms is like, if somebody walks in to like, for like a free trial or whatever, we're not really ever turning them away. So what's nice about that is that fits perfectly aligned with class, and you can get pretty much anybody with any fitness level to be doing this in some capacity without having it fully derail your class, having someone who's never exercised before. You can see, so it's still calorie rowing, but less calories, single unders instead of double unders, and then box step ups, body weight, any height. Of course, that can be scaled back even further, but the time domain's always the same. And I think it's been cool. See, Mike does. There we go. A wellness WOD water.
They're awesome. Yeah. You explained it exactly the way I do. If someone walked in off the street, I can get them through class with the wellness WOD.
Well, that's because it's my idea and you stole it.
Oh, well, that's where it got in my head then, I guess.
Oh, perfect.
All right. I want to know what this question exactly means. I always struggle with the idea, maybe in terms of loading and volume, so you can scale back, but I wouldn't want a program to cater to a particular person as a priority over other people. Which person do you mean by that, extra sloppy? Like I like to think that what we have gone over is broad in general, so that it's not too high skill, it's not too low skill. Again, if somebody is better than, everyone could do class workouts and get something out of it. But if somebody was training for something on a higher level, you can do the jump ship 90 version, which in my opinion, you would never have to scale that up. Even if you were a games athlete, you can get crushed by those workouts completely. And if you need a lower level, you go all the way down to the wellness WOD. So kind of, if you look at the full spectrum of who we're programming for, we program for athletes that literally could make the games, and all the way down to grandma walked in off the street, wanted to try a free class. So between the 90 and the wellness WOD, you have every level of CrossFit athlete covered, in my opinion. Oh, well, there you go. You just gave me something to talk about anyway.
And then somebody's asking, is the wellness WOD in 60-90 or just class? That's currently just class. I think people who are doing the 60 and 90, they're more like competitive athletes. So I think that if they need to scale and modify, they usually have a better idea as to what how to modify for themselves.
And they the 60/90 also has a recharge day built in on Thursday. So it's not like class where there's no official recharge. Like there's 2 off days in the 90. You only get 5 days of training per week.
Well, I thought that was because we have recharge week every 6 weeks for the 90, but we don't
Right.
ever do a recharge week for class because of the reasons we kind of said earlier, where like, most, I guess I would say most class people aren't training. Maybe they're training 5 days a week. I don't know. I'm
No,
actually curious about that.
you're right. That's exactly
They're
why
probably
we have.
doing between 3 and 4 days a week, more likely, right? I would
Yep.
say the average is probably your average class athlete's probably 3 to 4 days.
And in theory, they're probably doing class in a CrossFit gym. So you're supposed to have some kind of guidance from a coach. If you're doing too much or your results are not coming or whatever, you should have somebody to be able to bounce your training off of within your gym. You're supposed to have that person. So if you're not getting the right balance with class program that you're doing at a CrossFit gym, you need to seek some extra help from someone who can guide you a little better. Whereas the 90, a lot of times you're just training by yourself or you already have the answers.
I don't know how you just talked for an hour and 5 minutes.
I could do this twice a day, every day, quite easily.
It's concerning. It's annoying.
Well, there you go. You could talk for an hour and 5 minutes directly to me about nothing.
But I always would say, what I always think is so weird.
To me for an hour straight, and I just stand there
And
like
you don't listen.
Wow.
What I think is so weird is that you'll come on here, and if I'm not on here, you'll just talk to yourself for an hour. That's weird.
It's easy. I could do it. Even when I'm not on here, I talk to myself for an hour. Okay, I think we've used up our time for today. Bye, Danny.
You're staying on to bother these people?
I'm staying on for 2 seconds. No show tomorrow. This was my show instead of Friday. We've got too many things going on tomorrow. Probably try to sneak something in this weekend. Oh, Souza, what's up? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't even know what to say, but she could probably talk to you about nothing and go around in circles for like 60 minutes easily. And you might as well be talking to a wall. But that's my wife can just keep talking. Anyway, she's not here to defend herself. Okay, so no show tomorrow. I will be back Tuesday. I have a whole list of guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That would be awesome. If you scroll back, if anyone's interested, we have a 7-day free trial for the program in here somewhere. We also posted the entire month of June, I believe, class program. You can steal that hyperlink, download the whole thing, do whatever the hell you want with it. If you have any questions, reach out to me on social media. Pretty easy on Instagram. And yeah, thanks for joining me for a different little show today, talking about programming. This is my favorite topic. It's the first show that I've actually done on it, even though I could, as you can see, talk for literal hours about this topic. But we'll be back with more old media next week. And thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you later.